And let's talk a little bit about respectability politics and the idea that Black success is tied to conforming to white societal norms that is still prevalent today. Respectability politics, which suggests that Black people must behave, dress, and speak in ways that align with white middle class values to gain respect, that perpetuates anti-Blackness within the Black community. And some individuals, they try to distance themselves from behaviors that they deem as ghetto, and they associate being ghetto with being Black.
I'm sorry, that's what you're doing. That entire first half of your statement was you associating negative stereotypes with Blackness. Being respectable isn't a white thing. If we look very hard at the things that are considered ghetto and we just objectively look at them, we will be able to see the problems with those behaviors because they're not conducive in a society where we live amongst other people. Those type of behaviors work if you are by yourself and you're not around anyone else. No one's gonna care if you're loud and all this other stuff if no one else is around. However, if you are interacting with other people, there has to be a sense of respect for other people's space. And that's where a lot of ghetto behaviors really just come from, this lack of respect for other people's space and dignity. So you have some people, they will go out in public and be the loudest people in the room, right? That's a whole trope, being super, super loud. And I don't care what race you are. If you're doing that, I look at it as being extremely ghetto and ratchet. I don't care. The behavior itself is what it is. And people of all races exhibit that behavior, but for some reason it's Black people fighting to make that
respectable. Oh, that should be considered respectable. It's a different culture, you guys. Why are you being mad at this behavior? Because, it's just the Black culture.
You really devalue Blackness when you do that. When you reduce it down to negative behaviors, you make us look a damn fool in the public sphere. I don't care. I said it. Basically, respectability politics is just a different word for being a perfect victim, right? If we look at what it actually was back in history, you have to be a perfect victim so that people empathize with you. It's the reason why nobody really cares about the whole Cassie situation because she's not a perfect victim. It's the reason why whenever something happens to somebody, they go back in their history to see what they've done, to see if they deserve empathy. That's what this is, right? When you talk about respectability politics, that is directly correlated, directly related to being a perfect victim. Now, these pseudo-intellectuals, what they'll do is they'll take that concept, which is true. You shouldn't have to be a perfect victim to get justice, right? If something is wrongfully done to you, you deserve justice. Period, point blank. We can close that and put it off to the side. What these pseudo-intellectuals will do is they'll take that completely justifiable argument and they will bastardize it for the sake of promoting BS within the community. They'll say, well, if you're criticizing bonnets in public, you're playing respectability politics. Like, no, don't go out your house looking a fool. That has nothing to do with something bad happening to you and then saying, oh, you're not a victim because you wore a bonnet outside. It's not that. They conflate the two. And if you don't think about it, then it'll make sense. If you think about it for just a few more seconds, you will see that that is not the same thing. Being criticized for being obnoxious in public is not the same thing as saying you need to be a perfect victim. And see, that really speaks to this idea that Black people want to be victims. Because why are we walking around thinking from the stance of I have to be a perfect victim and correlating that idea with being respectable in public? It's like you expect to be a victim and then you get mad because you're like, well, you want me to be a perfect victim. Stop trying to be a victim. I'm sorry. I have to be the one to tell you. Stop wanting and already labeling yourself as a victim, because when you say, oh, wearing a bonnet in public, criticizing women wearing bonnets in public, criticizing women for being ghetto and ratchet, criticizing men for being thugged out, oh, you're playing respectability politics, you're essentially saying, why are you trying to make these people perfect victims? Let them be imperfect victims. You're reinforcing the idea that Black people are victims. Think about what I said for longer than 2 seconds. I'm sure it'll start to make sense to you.
They do all of this in an attempt to gain social acceptance from white people. And there's something that I wrote down. Economic inequality stemming from centuries of systemic oppression leads to feelings of frustration and helplessness within Black communities. In some cases, these feelings are projected inwards, leading to self-blame or rejection of Blackness as a means of coping with systemic barriers. So, for example, a lot of people perceive Black businesses, Black establishments, as being of lower quality.
Black people did that to themselves. Don't play with me. Black people did that to themselves during the civil rights movement. If y'all didn't know, we had businesses, we had buses, but we allowed people, other Black people, to convince us that white ice was colder. So instead of riding the Black bus, we wanted to ride the white bus. So this is self-imposed. So yes, we can have a conversation about like Black Wall Street being bombed. We can have conversations about things like that. But let's not play games here. Let's not throw rocks at ourselves and then hide our hands and then be like, oh, it was white supremacy the whole time we did it to ourselves. We could have continued to uplift our own businesses, but instead we decided to do sit-ins and allow people to spit in our faces, spray us down with hoses, chase us with dogs, while we begged them to let us spend our money in their establishments. This is self-imposed. This degradation of Black businesses is self-imposed. This has nothing to do with white supremacy.
All of these things or these feelings are examples of internalized racism, or rather internalized anti-Blackness. And then we can also talk about cultural assimilation and even media representation, where you do have pressure to assimilate into white-dominated spaces, and that can cause tension. And we also see how many media outlets still continue to portray Black people in stereotypical and negative roles. Can you think of any Black people in media today that seem to reject their Blackness?
Why are you associating negative stereotypes as, oh, this is Blackness? You're literally taking the minstrel show and saying, this is Blackness. What you're saying is anti-Black. And I will stand on that 10 toes down. This type of rhetoric is anti-Blackness because it's associating Blackness with foolery, tomfoolery. It's associating Blackness with ratchetness. Sis, those negative stereotypes are being portrayed by other Black people. And see, you know, at one point in time, you were able to say, oh, the media is doing this. The media. But now that we have social media and regular schmegular everyday people are picking up their phones and putting on minstrel shows themselves and uploading it themselves, you can no longer say,
It's the media. It's white supremacy pushing these stereotypes.
no, it's your everyday ghetto ratchet Black person putting this media out themselves via their cell phone. Stop blaming everybody else for the poor decisions of Black people. And look, we can have a whole conversation about reparations and all these different things, right? At the end of the day, we have to take ownership for where we're at. We've had time to literally get our together. We've had time. But rather than actually utilizing that time, utilizing resources, fighting the good fight, we allowed ourselves to become complacent with being in a lower class and then just sit and complain. We've allowed ourselves to become perpetual losers. And that is going to be the key term of the day. Loser behavior. A lot of Black people are walking around with this idea that, oh, it's so unfair. Why is it so unfair? I'm sorry. Life is unfair. Do you think the gazelle wakes up every day and it's like, why wasn't I born a lion? Why wasn't I born a cheetah? No. The gazelle gets up, figures out what it needs to do to navigate life so that it can continue to live, so that it can procreate, have offspring that will continue to live. They don't sit around wondering why they weren't born a lion or complaining about a lion being a lion. Life is hard and life is competitive. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's not.
Oh, it's not fair.
You're damn right it's not fair. But does that mean you sit around and complain like a loser? No. You get up and you put in the work. You put in the work to create that level playing field. And you don't do that by sitting around complaining and begging the people that you say have the game skewed. Make it fair, please. First of all, logically, why would they do that? Second of all, you sound like a loser. Get your together and put in the work to be better. Make the playing field leveled by leveling up yourselves. That's all you can do in life, is to level up and be better. Work harder. Oh, I have to work twice as hard as a white person. Okay, if that's what you got to do, then that's what you got to do. The gazelle does have to work twice as hard to outlive the lion. It is what it is. Stop being a loser. If you truly are on some pro-black stuff, then start putting in that work and not sitting around complaining. Put in the work.